Good morning. If you're tuning in, this is In the Headlines. Now we change gears and speak matters of agribusiness. Kenya prides itself as an agriculture-driven economy. However, where do the opportunities lie in as far as matters of agribusiness is concerned in DRC Congo? Why Congo? DRC has just joined the larger East African bloc, and definitely that is a place to invest in. 90 million market. Quick facts about matters of agriculture in DRC Congo is that agriculture contributes around 19.5% of the DRC GDP, however does not meet the demand of the population in as far as matters of food security as well as job opportunities, and that is where you and I as Kenyans come in. So where are these opportunities? Taking us through this conversation is none other than Christine Maina, who is the president and the CEO of the DRC Kenya Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And alongside her is none other than Kiringai Kamau, who is an agricultural economist and a social entrepreneur and promoter of capacity building in ICT and agriculture. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Karibu sana.
Now, this we speak matters current affairs on as far as matters Good Morning Kenya is concerned, and we are 19 days to the general election. What's your feel? Just one word, quick word. What is your feel about, where we at as a country and as we're heading to the August polls? Let's start off with the lady.
Yes, I think Kenyans are very enthusiastic when it comes to during the campaign times and elections. However, I am hopeful that that this election is going to be a peaceful one. I think we've gone through a lot of issues, from COVID to the economic uphill because of the war in the Russia and Ukraine. And so I feel that at this point, Kenyans really just want a peaceful process, make sure that the person who they choose is the one who's going to go into power peacefully. And I think we're just looking forward to really having a successful election and moving past this so that we can continue with back to our businesses and really get back to everything that we've lost during the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mr. Kiringa, it seems that people are already seeing you on set and your phone is already off the hook. Would ask you to kindly either switch it off so that they do not, interrupt the show. But before we hear from Kiringa what he has to say in regard to where we are as a country ahead to the elections, just to invite you that this is a live interview and you can participate. You can get us on Twitter on KBC Channel 1. My Twitter handle is @RayManyara. Are you interested in tapping opportunities in DRC, especially on agribusiness? What questions do you have to my panelists this morning? That is none other than Christine Maina, who is the president and the CEO of the DRC Kenya Chamber of Commerce, as well as Kiringai Kamau, who is an agricultural economist and a social entrepreneur keen on capacity building as far as ICT and agriculture is concerned. Your turn, sir. What is your take in regard to where we are when it comes to, the elections from where you sit?
The elections present an opportunity for the first time where focus on food is so critical given the cost of food and the focus that is being given by both parties in terms of where they will touch, bottom-up dimensions, touching on smallholder farmers and the dimensions of marketing their produce, and the same case with the Azimio dimension, where their manifesto is heavily agricultural and focusing on the social dimensions of reaching to communities. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of hope for the agricultural space. It will be desirable that people realize that the most important is to look at what institutions are going to be in place as we move towards that direction. And a lot is actually already happening at the government level to support that. But more importantly, it's what people themselves will do, because food will be a challenge, but we are sure that the efforts that have been put by many institutions to actually ground people in producing food is going to be bearing fruit. Thank you.
Now, with that particular feel of where we are in as far as matters of food security, remember President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda included matters of food security, and right now the statistics indicate that 23 counties within the country are facing drought. So matters of food security coming to the fore. And this conversation is about tapping in opportunities in agribusiness at the DRC. Let's start off, Madam Minor, given your position as the President and the CEO of the DRC Kenya Chamber of Commerce. On a one-off, where are these opportunities? In what value chains can we actually tap in and improve our businesses?
Yes, so when you look at the DR Congo or Congo-Kinshasa, there are countless of opportunities, because we're looking at a country that has had many years of war and has not yet fully developed. And so at the DRC Kenya Chamber of Commerce, some of our key areas of investment are agriculture, energy, ICT, industry, and hospitality and tourism. We do have other areas that we focus on, but these are really like our key areas of focus. Also, the fact that in Kenya, some of these areas are the leading sectors in the country. And so we are encouraging Kenyans who are specifically in these sectors to be part of the chamber so that we can assist them transitioning their businesses and crossing border into the DRC. Like I said, there are very many opportunities. We are looking at a market of over 90 million people. We're looking at arable land of 170 million acres of land. And just to look at the magnitude of that, Kenya has 14 million acres of arable land. So just imagine 170 million acres, and this is untapped. This is land that has not been utilized yet. And so we are encouraging Kenyans, that especially in the agribusiness sector, to venture into the DRC. And so not just in trade, matters of exporting and importing produce, but also agro production, where we can actually assist them set up their establishment in the DRC. And I think as we go along, we're also going to discuss all the incentives that come along with agro production that the government of DRC is offering to investors in this sector.
I'm keen on agro production because, you know, man has to eat to live, right?
Yes.
Now, Sir Kirinyang, we have talked about matters of having this arable land, and we're seeing emerging trends in as far as technology is concerned, especially where matters of agriculture, or rather agro production, is concerned. Maybe take us through where we are as a country when it comes to matters of ICT and agriculture. What are these emerging technologies, and how then can we use this to tap into that opportunity? We've been told there's vast land that is untapped for us.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I said, I'm Kiringai Wakamau, and I do support communities. I teach agriculture at the University of Nairobi, agribusiness. I am also a practitioner in agriculture and agribusiness, and I'm an advisor to the government on matters to do with the private sector engagement with the agricultural sector. I would say that as a country, insofar as matters ICT is concerned, we lead in many ways. One, Kenya has invested very heavily into fiber optic infrastructure that has made the country be the focus of innovators around ICT. Any university existing in the country is looking for solutions that people can give to address solutions in the agricultural space. So we have very many solutions that have been given, but more importantly, it is the institutions that are created to do that. In April, the Minister for ICT proposed the creation of 1,450 ICT hubs, which are from the government side in the Ministry of Agriculture going to tap into that, so that in those 1,450 ICT hubs, we also integrate agriculture into them. We have, as a country, invested in food warehousing, or warehouse receipting systems, which is an automated dimension into delivering technology to food storage. We have the government has realized that there has been very many diverse investment in ICT by various programs, and now coming up with what they are calling a unified agricultural platform, data platform. So, and universities are getting into it. We have the University of Nairobi launched the Center for Agriculture and Nutrition, Data Analytics and Innovation for Policy Impact. And many other universities are doing the same. The Directorate of Research and Innovation in the Ministry of Agriculture, they have formulated what they are calling the data think tank for the agricultural space, which is centered within my center at the university. So we have a number of ICT interventions, and more so, we are the first country that has started now using the satellite infrastructure that is which has been supported by an institution that is associated with myself called the Global Open Data for Agriculture and Nutrition. Mm-hmm. So we have a Kenya Data Cube that will actually be now intervening in terms of providing satellite infrastructure even on small farms and the associated dimensions of the grassroots to anchor that. Mm-hmm. Kenya now has a space agency which is working very closely with the Konza Technopolis and the infrastructure that we have in Konza. Many people only see Konza and see one building and think that that is the only investment Konza has. Yes. If you go under the ground, many of those who have visited that complex, you will realize that the investment that this country has made is so huge and so valuable, we cannot take that for granted. It is the reason, even when America was actually identifying who will be the next ambassador in the country, mm-hmm. they had to pick an expert in ICT because Kenya is seen as a key driver of digital thinking. We have very many private sector institutions that are developing solutions for the agricultural space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So ICT is going to be driving agribusiness?
It is going to be driving agribusiness, and it is what is going to pull the young people. Mm-hmm. more than is happening today mm-hmm. in the agribusiness space. Sure.
Now, bringing back the conversation to the opportunities that lie beyond our borders, we cannot fail to talk about the cross-border challenges. One of them being access to markets and the lack of harmonized policies for trade. From where you sit, how are you going to ensure that these persons who want to trade in DRC and maybe are not even members of the Chamber of Commerce, the Kenya Chamber of Commerce, get their products there? What's the process? Where do you begin from?
Yes, so let me first say that DRC joining the East Africa was a very big advantage for the Kenyan market because with the processes that they are going through, we are seeing a lot of streamlining of the trade policies, customs, that means cross-border trading between the two countries. And so it's going to make it much easier once they lift the customs charges for Kenyan products or anyone else from the East Africa who's going to be taking their products to the DRC. So let me say, yes, the Chamber does support anyone who is interested in trading in the DRC. And one of the ways we do that, and we encourage people to get in touch with us, is number one, security matters. We are able to advise you on which regions we think that your products would do well, because we're looking at a country that is very vast. I mean, a country that actually has 2 time zones. And so when you're mapping the country and deciding where you should place your product, we are able to advise you based on the demand on the ground that this is where best your product would be placed. We are able to advise you on the logistics and the routes, the best and safest routes that you need to use. And so we do not just assist our members. We have information for anyone who is interested in trading in the DRC. Really what we want to see is a deepening of bilateral trade between Kenya and the DRC, and making sure that our investors are able to not only have a successful trade with the DRC, but also a safe one, so that we don't have, we just try to curb the fear that I think a lot of people have right now in thinking that I'm probably going to take my truck and then it's going to be stopped at the border, or some bandits are going to take my goods. Mm-hmm. So I think there's also a bit of a misunderstanding that this is not, the insecurity that is going on is not in the entire country of DRC. It's a very small part. And I think our existence, or the reason that we are there, is to be able to advise you and let you know that you can still trade in the DRC. You need not to fear. All you need is someone to hold your hand and guide you on the right trade routes and the right distribution channels, because also you cannot just pick your truck with goods and decide that you're going to the DRC because you heard there's a market. We need to assist you with a proper distribution channel. And like I also always say that the culture in the country, the culture in DRC and Kenya, of course, is quite different. And just like any other greenfield investment, when you're getting into a new country, one of the most important things that you need to learn is their culture. How do you deal with a customs agent from the border? You know, how do you deal with the drivers? How do you deal with anyone else you meet along the way, so that you have an easy process throughout your trade? And so that is why we are there. We do encourage, yes, for investors to be members, because we don't believe in a once-off trade. We believe that you need to have a continuous successful business, exporting or importing into the DRC, and that is why we are there. Yes.
Very well said. This morning we're talking about how you and I, as Kenyans, can tap into, you know, the vast opportunities that the DRC provides. And now we're focusing on matters of agribusiness. Well, we take a quick breather. We'll be right back. Good morning. We're speaking matters agribusiness here and looking at where you need to invest and invest in what if you're looking at the DRC. And given that it is the newest entrant in the East African regional bloc. My panel consists of Christine Maina, who is the CEO and the president of the DRC Kenya Chamber of Commerce, flanked by Kiringai Kamau, who is not only an agricultural economist but also a social entrepreneur and promoter of capacity building in ICT and agriculture. The question of sustainability when it comes to matters of agribusiness. Here we have a 90 mil market. And top of my mind, I'm thinking, that's a market I'd want to tap in. From where you sit, Christine Maina, what would you like, your top 5 commodities in as far as agribusiness is concerned? What is selling in DRC? Maybe that's the question I need to ask. What is selling so that we can get it and supply it to them?
Okay, yes. So at the top of the list would be maize. Maize is one of the highest in demand products in DRC. We're looking at products like soya, wheat, and fruits. Fruits, I'm talking about oranges, apples, avocados, not so much so bananas, but yeah. So I would say, I know sometimes it's very difficult when someone asks me what products or what food products would do well in DRC. And the list is very, very long. The list is very, very long. And what I'd advise is that before you decide to, like you said, get excited and think about the 90 million and think about my bags of maize that I can take to the DRC, I would kindly advise that you do your research very well. And we are there as the chamber to assist you with information and market intel, so that, because you, for example, you probably have a lot of fish and you want to take to the DRC, not knowing that fish in DRC is dying of old age. So what are you going to do with your fish when you arrive there? So you need to, have the right information, the right market intel, because yes, as much as there's a lot of demand for a lot of food products, like I said, it's not all the regions that uptake all the products. There's some regions, of course, based on culture and how they eat and what they eat, that some products maybe don't probably sell very well, probably like avocados. You're looking at also products like chili. Congolese food has a lot of chili, so any farmers who are doing chili would do very well in the DRC. And let me also say that we are also not just encouraging trade, I would insist on this, but we're encouraging Kenyans to do production. Why are we encouraging Kenyans to do production in the DRC? Not just to feed the population in DRC, but also to feed the Kenyan population. Because we're looking at a country that has vast land, and so we're encouraging the large-scale farmers who can venture, whether it is wheat or maize in the DRC, sell to the market there, and also import, or rather export the food to Kenya. And so we're not just encouraging trade, we're also encouraging production.
That is agro production in DRC.
Yes.
Let's bring in Mr. Kamau. What is your take in regard to, Kenyans moving, large-scale farmers, I'm sure, moving from here to DRC to practice or take part in the agro production value chain? What are the advantages of farming there vis-a-vis farming here, back home?
Thank you very much for that question. The first thing about DRC is that much of the production that they have internally is smallholder. With a country that is heavy in terms of resources, land resources, which has adequate supply of rainfall, adequate supply of rivers that can be dammed, and therefore supply water in the event that 20% of the land there can actually be irrigated with water that is actually local. So in Kenya we have challenges of water supply. Now what we have there is that the key input into the soil that can support plantations is readily available. You have land. The government has said if you want 1,000 acres of land, they can just give you to actually go and prove your capacity.
That's an incentive that has been given by DRC?
Yes, by the DRC government. The minister was here last week.
1,000 acres?
1,000 acres. Many Kenyans know the quarter acre. Now
yes, quota system. That's why I'm like, huh? What?
Yes,
1,000?
Yeah. I'm giving numbers so that people can actually just realize. If you are a joker, it is good to continue joking here. But if you are serious in producing food that you actually want to feed that country, and the market is local there. Number two, if you are looking for a country that is forever hungry like Kenya and you actually want to export from there, and there are incentives for export by the government to export to your own country where you understand the market, there is no other symbiotic existence that there is now other than the relationship that we have between DRC and Kenya. And the question that you ask in terms of what are the opportunities in large-scale farming, that is an area that has not been touched. It is an area where investment is required. It is an area where Kenyans are very good in coming together and creating a big entity which can actually do trade in terms of food. That is where we were during the previous regimes, and we actually had enough to eat. We have now parceled our lands, divided it into pieces that are not quite beneficial, but we actually now have an opportunity of the mistakes we have made. If people get together, they can actually go and create an enterprise that can work in DRC, doing business in DRC, and exporting food to those of us who are forever hungry.
Yeah, we are forever hungry. If you look at even where we are right now, we are already having this conversation about the price of unga. But if just top of your mind, how did we get to this point? Since you're already in the value chain when it comes to matters of agriculture, Mr. Kamau, how did we get to 250 shillings for a 2 kg pack of maize flour?
It is structural. We don't have the structures for conserving what we have, and we don't have a good strategy on how we want to sustain our eating and health production so that we have sustainable food. We actually lack the structures. We also have lack very clear strategies on food security, We also lack the systems to monitor. We actually, you may be surprised that there are still some people who have a lot of stock of food, but the logistics of moving from where the food is to where it is needed most, where it can actually fed better prices. Because the big noisemakers that make the prices go high are not the producers, because the producers have the food, but the ones who are selling so that they actually scare the government now that there is people are campaigning. They are also playing a role in terms of creating panic that we don't have food. Import, you don't have enough. The minister doesn't understand. It is all a lot of hype. We do have food. I can assure you Kenyans are not hungry. The food is expensive, but it is not being driven by the economic dynamics. It is being driven by the political wind that we are in. So we will actually be back to where we are supposed to be, and food will be affordable. You will be surprised when the elections are done, food prices will come down, not because we have imported, but because now there is no one hyping the cost and telling people that there is no food. And therefore, those ones who are, in Kenya, they are called cartels. The cartels who actually process the food will actually not be having who to go and appeal to, so that the cost of the maize can actually go high. So we don't have such a huge hunger in this country. We only have very high decibels of political tones. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sad. We are just 19 days. I hope we can keep strong till the 19 days are over and we get back to, you know, at least a packet of unga retailing at 90 shillings is affordable. Is affordable. 90 we can, but now 250.
No, we only need now to go to DRC, and within a period of a short time, you have enough land to actually export. And the DRC government, of course, they will eat some of it, but they don't only eat maize like we do. As we will drink uji in the morning, eat ugali for tea time, and lunch and evening. And dinner. Yeah. So we have opportunity to actually get our production being done in DRC. Now you can do it by road. We can do it also by railway. And very soon you will actually be big flights. Yeah. So and right now you actually don't require a visa. You don't require a visa to go to DRC.
Now let's address now the incentives. Why would I be looking at investing in DRC from where you sit? What are the incentives?
Yes, so apart from the fact that DRC is one of the very few countries in the world that will give you one of the highest return on investment, let me first revert back to the Agribusiness conference that we just concluded last week. We had investors in the agribusiness sector who came for the conference and were able to be privy to the incentives that the government is offering. One of them, like Dr. Keringai said, is land. There is land allocation for agro production for investors who are interested in serious agro production. As long as you can present your plan or your business plan or that which you want to invest in, the Minister of Land assured us that they are willing to support us, and they are supporting the Kenyan investors who are interested to get into production in the DRC. And by following through, we had a few of our investors who were able to follow through. And very soon we are going to be announcing the land allocation to some of the investors who are in attendance of the Agribusiness conference. So that was also a success on our side. And so, yes, those are some of the incentives that the government is offering, that for any serious investor in agro production, the agenda of the DRC government is really to push for agribusiness. They're calling it something like revenge mining or revenge agriculture, where the Congolese are being advised or being encouraged that when you mine and you remove your diamond, replace it with a seed, and you cover the soil, even if it's just for your own food, so that there's focus is not so much on mining, but also on agribusiness, and especially just production at the household level for food. And so apart from that, some of the incentives also are, if you're producing in the DRC, there are a lot of custom exemptions when you want to export the food from the DRC into Kenya. And that's why, like we said, we are encouraging investors in large scale to invest in the DRC. Why? First of all, you have allocation of land if you have a serious investment, and you can prove that from the Ministry of Land. And secondly, you are exempted from customs, from a lot of the taxes when you want to also export, and also given some tax incentives within a given period of time during your production. So this is really one of the sectors I would say that any investor would have very high return on investment. This is one of the sectors that the DRC government is fully focused on encouraging investors, and also encouraging their own local Congolese to really go into. And like I said, as the chamber, we are there to support you. We're there to give you all the information that you require, so that we're able to come back with successful stories of investors in Kenya who actually went there and able to succeed. Yes.
Is the DRC a place where a startup can actually invest in as far as matters of agribusiness, or does one need to have grounding back at home to invest there? Can you just, like, that is your first investment, or that is your first venture in DRC as far as matters of agribusiness are concerned?
Definitely. I think for any business, as long as you have the skills and you have the knowledge around the business and you have a good plan, you can definitely venture into the business. You don't necessarily have to have a background. It does help if you have a background, because you are looking at starting a business in a new country. So there are a lot of dynamics and challenges that come along with just simply starting a new business in a new country. So if it's a new business for yourself also, there are a lot of challenges that come along with it. But yes, it is possible. Of course, if you have someone to hold your hand, if this is your first investment and you're not a farmer and you've never been in agribusiness, as long as we guide you and we walk you through, this is something that can be done easily. Yes.
Kiringai, what do you think about, investment? I said, you said we are perennially hungry as a country, and this is something that we can tap into. But what other opportunities from where you sit do you see, like there are low-hanging fruits for Kenyans who are hungry for investment, as far as DRC is concerned?
The investments come in agriculture, or in everything that you do. The best is to actually look at, do you have a market for anything that is needed? On the other end, we have said that they have virgin land.
Yes.
Virgin land in a country that is very heavy in machinery. We know that anybody who is in the industry of supplying inputs into productive agriculture, if you are in that business, so that any input that you have, whether you are talking machinery, whether you are talking seed, whether you are talking knowledge, whether you are talking technology, that can serve a huge number of people across the country in bilingual, multilingual dimensions, because they will speak French, they will speak French, they will speak English, they will speak is their own language, Lingala. So they will actually have diverse languages, and you can actually now even people who can help translate. And like we saw in the case of Rwanda, when they actually transformed into from French into English, teachers are needed. We will be having opportunities for teachers, because they will also be looking for unifying a medium of communication. They speak Kiswahili, and we also do speak Kiswahili, but teachers in Kiswahili are not as many. Yes. So we'll actually be having people who can teach Kiswahili going in there. So what I'm saying is that you actually have the opportunity for physical infrastructure, for services in ICT, for services in knowledge, for services in extension-driven agriculture, and the organizational thinking behind that, so capacity building. And when you go there, you will find, because they have not been organized for a long time, they don't have any businesses that can actually be said to be taking advantage of the opportunities that lie within there. Kenyans are not only good in getting hungry, they're also good in creating opportunities for entrepreneurs. So we'll actually go there and train people. We have CPAs. We don't have enough CPAs within the African region. I mean, the African region. Yes. Kenyans can support that. And in DRC, they will actually become many because startups require compliance to the law. Yes. Now the law is being created. Policy is going to be a critical expectation. People working and supporting the government will be required. There are many donors coming in. They will actually require knowledge workers. So let me say that the question that you had asked Kristen on whether somebody can actually go there and just get started. Mm-hmm. There is no point being jobless in Kenya.
Oh, wow. I think we need to take that again. We need to take that again because the issue of unemployment is something, it is a bane that this country has dealt with for eons. And this, I think, from what you say, presents an opportunity to correct that. Go ahead, Mr. Kiringai.
Yeah, I mean, I myself train and teach young people on entrepreneurship, agripreneurship, let me say, and show them how they can create enterprises to take advantage of opportunities. And I keep telling people, there is a small book. It is called the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. The first law in that book says it is better to be fast than to be better. Now, many people wait until they actually can hack it properly so that they actually venture. I keep telling people, if you really have the capacity to get started, even when you don't have any knowledge, get there, get started. Let opportunities find you there. Let the market see that there is something about this person. And that is why, if you actually look at the history of even our country, people came from rural areas into Nairobi. Those who were the first are now controlling huge chunks of investments, not because they had knowledge, but because opportunities found them and they were able to adjust to the environment. So it is better to be there first, see where the opportunities are. The mind of a human is actually always so adaptive. It will be able for you, when you are there with jobless, to actually start even cooking for people, and in the process you actually are scouting for an opportunity that will find you there, and we know how to do that. If they love eating ugali and they don't know how to cook it properly, just go and cook it. It doesn't matter whether you have a degree. By the time you actually have a few people coming to eat there, you'll be serving one of the richest men and they will be your partner in investing. So there is a lot of opportunities down there. I sat and talked to them. They are waiting for what we can actually offer the government in terms of support so that they can actually create enterprises. So I am waiting for our youth to come and tell me we are ready to go to DRC, and then I will actually be organizing them. And the minister told me, bring them, organize them, let us see what can be done. This is a collaborative engagement between them and my center at the university, and we will actually be able to guide them through the DRC chamber. Mm-hmm. And we would actually see that. Are you just targeting youth? And when you say youth, you know, it's very fluid. Youth is anyone who thinks they're youth. But what youth are you targeting now? What age group? Age bracket, so to speak? Everybody qualify? You know, in a country where you have land that has not been tilled, even education is irrelevant. Yes. Even a person who actually knows that I can go there and so long as you give me some ugali, I can actually work the soil. Mm-hmm. There is opportunity for you there. Aha. What to say? Provided you're able-bodied and willing, yes, you can actually take advantage. Able-bodied and willing, those who have the capacity to actually think processes and planning and policy. Anybody who actually has the desire to look for the opportunity and relocate because they know they can think broadly in a new environment, that is the place to be. Aha. Parting shot, Christine Minor, we've heard so much from Kiringai. I'm already thinking I need to pack my bags and just take a flight. There's actually a flight to go to Goma and land there and invest. Now, parting shot in regard to, investing in DRC.
So yes, something I always say, I know that we've had a lot about the potential in DRC. We've heard a lot about the opportunities in the DRC. And like we said, a typical Kenyan is an aggressive Kenyan who would think, I will definitely pack my bags and go there. But there's also something that I always like to address, and these are the risks and the challenges. So that when you in that country and you meet some of these challenges and risks, you don't say that probably this was not addressed or you really never knew that this was happening. So number one, like I said before, was security. I'd like to assure our investors that it's not that the whole entire DRC is insecure. We'll be able to advise you on the regions that you need to trade. Secondly, we need to look at the fact that a lot of people are afraid of the language because, number one, English is not an official language in the DRC. Probably the language that we share is Swahili, and we're only looking at the eastern and southern parts that speak Swahili. So majority of the DRC don't actually speak Swahili. But when you look at the investment, the countries that invest in DRC more than Kenya does, they actually don't even have Swahili. So you're looking at a country like South Africa. South Africa trades more with DRC than the entire East Africa combined. And when you look at South Africa, they only have English, and the DRC don't speak English, so they don't have Swahili, they don't have French. But yet South Africa trades more with the DRC than the rest of East Africa. And so I'd also advise the investors not to be afraid of the fact that there's a language barrier. I think with business, and as long as you can count and understand your money, the rest will really come along. And so also let me also address a few issues on maybe past stories or past incidences that a lot of people have had of a lot of business people. I get asked very many questions. Someone asked me once, will I go there and the government takes over my business? I mean, these are real concerns. You'd be surprised. And I just want to assure you that no, the DRC government, more than anybody else, is supporting investors that are coming into the country. I mean, over the last about 10 years that I've interacted with the DRC, I have seen so many changes in the country, so many changes, so many incentives, so many policies that have been changed, all to make sure that it's an investor-friendly country. And so you should not be afraid that you're going to start a business and then probably someone in government will come and talk. That does not actually happen.
I think it happens in the films.
As long as you're on the right side of the law, and this is what we tell people, that when you come to us, we're going to show you how to do things right. Let us not cut corners, because when you cut corners, it will bite you in the back eventually. So you're going to a new country and you really want to make your money really fast. No, we advise Kenyans, just be patient. Of course, you're in a greenfield investment. Be patient. Allow us to show you the direction that you need to go. I know a lot of people will come to you and tell you, my uncle is this, my father is this. And yes, it's okay if they can help you. But as long as you're within the laws of the government, then you're really not going to be in any problem at all. However, the government is very much supportive of the investors, and we are also very grateful for the support we've also received from the DRC Kenya Chamber of Commerce from government, and also the fact that now the visas have been lifted and we can freely travel into the DRC without a visa, and also Congolese can come into Kenya without a visa. So these are some of the improvements. I think we keep seeing so many improvements every other month, and it's quite encouraging to our investors. Yes.
Very well said. My panelists, they're quite encouraging, giving us a reason why we should invest in DRC. They're the latest entrant into the larger East African regional bloc. I have been speaking to none other than Christine Miner, who is the president and the CEO of the DRC Kenya Chamber of Commerce, flanked by Kiringai Kamau, who is an agricultural economist as well as a social entrepreneur and a promoter of capacity building in ICT and agriculture. Take home is that you do not need any, special kind of academic qualification or even knowledge in matters of business. You just need to be ready and willing to learn on the job, on site. No visas for Kenyans to access to DRC, and the government down there is ready and willing to accept those who want to invest in the greenfields market. Remember, a 90 million market there. And when you talk about agriculture, agriculture accounts for 19% of the country's GDP. However, they cannot sustain matters of food security given to the growing demand. And also, as we've heard from Mr. Kamau, as Kenyans who are talking about matters of food security, we are perennially hungry. Well, you can look at that in as far as investment is concerned, with land allocation about to be announced to those persons who took part into the recently concluded forum between DRC and Kenya's investors. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant day ahead.